What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of talking about something that you already talked about. Because since the last time you talked about it, there has been news that come out which basically nullified everything you had previously said about it. As always, I am your host, Zach Cronin, and today we are going to be talking about Karl-Anthony Towns joining the New York Knicks by way of a trade between them and the Minnesota Timberwolves. Last Wednesday, I did a video talking about how I was even more sold on the Knicks for this season than I was last season. And 2 days after that video came out, this trade happens. Karl-Anthony Towns goes to New York, Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle go to Minnesota. And this changes everything. This alters my previous opinions about the New York Knicks, and it makes me even more sold on them. I feel like this is one of the only few instances of a positive commentator's curse. Usually, when you talk about something, the news that comes after it is detrimental. This is not the case. This was, however, one of the few trades that we see where neither fan base is excited about it. Neither fan base approves of it. And you can see that for various reasons. With both of these teams, Minnesota and New York, you have solid units who, on their own, previously unaltered, were legitimate championship contenders. As we know, Minnesota's coming off a conference finals appearance. The New York Knicks, even with the injuries to Mitchell Robinson, re-signed OG Anunoby, traded for Mikal Bridges. You have another year of Jalen Brunson. They were legitimate championship contenders as well. Additionally, with the Knicks, you have the formation of the Nova Knicks, which fans were super thrilled about. And now all of that is done. It's over with. The Nova Knicks are not a thing. The Minnesota Timberwolves are now clearly all in on Anthony Edwards being the face of the franchise. However, this is a move that actually does benefit both teams. And I think that becomes clearer the more that you sit with it, especially from the Knicks perspective. I also see where Knicks fans are coming from because this was not a necessary move. They didn't have to trade away Julius and Dante. I think they would have fared just fine with both of these guys, even with Mitchell Robinson being out. It is a risk. It is a massive risk. But ownership knows and the front office knows that you only have so many years to contend for a title. And this is probably the best time that the Knicks are in. And Karl-Anthony Towns fits on the Knicks better than Julius Randle does. I, for one, am a big fan of Julius for whatever reason. Maybe it's the lefty bias, but I still believe Julius Randle is a very good player. I mean, this guy last season averaged 24 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists, and shot like 47% from the field, cut down on his ill-advised three-pointer attempts, and the Knicks won 63% of the games that he was healthy in. Of course, the issue with him is that the Knicks do need a little bit more floor spacing, especially with Jalen Brunson being the downhill attacking guard that he is. Sometimes there's just a little bit too much clutter in the paint, and you need a player who's able to step out. Even so, I don't believe Julius gums it up too much because he's not just going to post up in the lane. He's a reliable mid-range shooter as well from 15, 18 feet, the elbow, all that. But Towns just simply fits better for no reason other than the fact that he is able to consistently hit threes and that the three ball has become a huge piece of his game. He is an immensely versatile offensive center. I think he shot like 36% from three last season. No, I lied. He shot 41% from three last regular season. He shot 36% in the playoffs. Additionally, I do feel that Karl-Anthony Towns is still a very good player as well. He may not be the face of a franchise like we once thought, but statistically, neither one of these teams is losing much production, at least in terms of raw point value. Karl Towns averaged 21.8 points last season. Randall, as I just mentioned, was at around 24. But again, it is the variety in which these guys get their points. Additionally, for the Knicks, they once again have a legitimate secondary scorer who can take pressure away from Jalen Brunson. This was something that we saw later on in the season where Julius's injury really hurt them is they didn't have a reliable secondary scoring threat. The rest of the Knicks, however, did pick up the slack. Josh Hart had a bunch of great games. Dante DiVincenzo had some fantastic efforts, as well as OG Anunoby. But Cat is a guy who you can legitimately run the offense through. He's someone who, if Jalen Brunson is not having a good game, he can go out and get 24, 25, 28. Let's not forget who was the leading scorer in the Timberwolves series clincher against Denver. It was Karl-Anthony Towns and Jaden McDaniels. Anthony Edwards did not have a particularly good game that night, and Cat stepped up. Additionally, Cat gave 28 to the Mavericks in the series finale, in which Minnesota lost, but Towns and Ant were the only guys who really contributed anything offensively. Both of them had 28. This is just great. This is just great team building from the Knicks, understanding your weaknesses and filling them with someone who is probably the best guy for it. Cat is a legitimate 1B who can be a 1A at times. There are, of course, some potential issues going forward. I'm not necessarily concerned about like the character shots that people throw at Towns, him being soft, whatever. If anything, the biggest issue with him is his inability to sometimes stay on the floor in the postseason. He is known to rack up 3, 4, 5 fouls very quickly in postseason contests, which obviously is not what you want. Another thing I want to touch on with the Knicks is the breaking up of the Nova Knicks. There were reports leading up to this trade, or either leading up to or shortly thereafter, that mentioned Dante DiVincenzo becoming disgruntled with his role and not really giving a fuck about the reformation of the Nova Knicks. Therefore, moving him was even better because he's now able to go to Minnesota and he's going to have a more significant role in the offense, whether it's as, like the third guy, which he's very capable of being. It's going to be interesting to see how him and Jaden McDaniel switch off because I do feel that they are very similar to one another. The only difference being that I believe McDaniels is a better perimeter defender than DiVincenzo, but DiVincenzo is very good as well. And you're going to need multiple wings to go up against guys like Luka, SGA, Jalen Williams. There's a lot of talent in the Western Conference. Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, whomever it may be. And Minnesota had a bunch of success with that last season. I do also like their addition of Julius Randle, giving them another interior presence. Minnesota was one of the most voluminous teams when it came to points in the paint. I think they were like 51 points in the paint per game last season. Randle is the antithesis of Karl-Anthony Towns. He likes to start inside the three-point line and work his way out if he so needs it. Towns is much more of a modern center, more of a stretch five who has a bit of a post game. Randle thrives in the mid-range. He thrives going downhill, playing physically. He's big, he's strong, he's a good athlete as well. He just gives Minnesota a nice boost in the paint and also someone who can make up for Rudy Gobert's inability to create offense for himself. You can also put Julius Randle in the pick and roll with Anthony Edwards. He can pop as well. There is a lot more dynamic to that offense. Overall, I like this trade a lot for the Knicks. It brings them a player who is going to fit in this system, someone who's going to fill out their center position, and is also going to allow the Knicks not to get off to a shit start to begin the season, which was something I did touch on last week. I did, however, say that if you are going to have a slow point at any point during the NBA season, before Christmas is the time to do it because everyone's getting into a rhythm. Everyone's readjusting. Everyone's ramping up. There are going to be issues, and you don't want those issues to start coming in around the All-Star break, after the All-Star break, when the seeding races heat up, when everybody is fully locked in, when their rotations are locked in, when the game plans and the schemes are smoothed out. This is going to allow the Knicks to get off to a very good start. And I was very comfortable saying that they were up with Philadelphia as arguably the second best team in the East even before this trade. And I think that they are still comfortably in that second slot, still in that same tier with Philadelphia. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and bring this video to a close. As always, thank you guys so much for coming to hang out with me today. As always, everything I'm associated with is down in the description box below: Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Subscribe to this channel. Leave a like on this video if you enjoyed it. Drop a comment as well. It really helps out with the algorithm. If you do any of those three things, you will become my new favorite person. And with that, I will see y'all in the next one.